Every July, my sister Linda texts me about her kitchen sink smelling like a swamp. My name's Gary Holt, and I've worked every trade there is for over 40 years, plumbing included. In 30-some years in my own house, I've never once had a drain clog or stink on me. It's not a miracle powder, and it's not a plumber's secret. It's 2 or 3 plain habits that take less time than your coffee takes to brew. And I'm going to give them to you straight, including the part of this trick going around online that can actually crack your pipe. That swamp smell almost always comes down to one of 2 things happening inside your pipes, and summer heat makes both of them worse at the same time. Every sink, tub, and floor drain in your house has a curved section of pipe underneath it called a trap, and some folks call it a P-trap because of the shape. That curve holds a small pocket of water sitting there at all times, and that pocket is the only thing standing between your kitchen and the sewer gas sitting in the pipe below it. As long as that water stays put, the smell stays down where it belongs. The problem is, water evaporates and it evaporates faster in the heat. A sink you use every day gets refilled every time you run water, so you never notice it losing any. A guest bathroom, a basement floor drain, or a laundry sink you only touch once a month is a different story. In the middle of summer, that little pocket of water can dry up completely in a few weeks, and once it's gone, sewer gas has a clear path straight up into your house. That's problem number 1, and it's the fast one to fix. Problem number 2 lives inside the pipe itself, and it takes longer to build and longer to deal with. Every drain in your house picks up a thin layer of grease, soap, food bits, and hair over time, and bacteria move in and feed on it. That layer is called biofilm, and it's the same slimy coating you'd find on a rock sitting in a creek for a few months. Heat speeds up how fast bacteria grow, so the same biofilm that sits quiet in your pipes all winter turns into a genuine smell machine once the temperature climbs. There's a third piece that makes summer feel worse even when nothing's actually changed in your pipes. Most of us run the air conditioner and keep the windows shut all summer, and that keeps the air in the house from moving the way it does in spring or fall with the windows cracked open. A mild smell that would air itself out in 10 minutes with a window open just sits there and gets stronger instead. So when your drain stinks in July, you're usually dealing with one of these 2 things, sometimes both at once. A dry trap smells like sewer gas, plain and simple, sharp and unpleasant the second you walk in the room. A biofilm problem smells more like old dishwater or something gone sour, and it tends to show up gradually instead of all at once. Knowing which one you've got tells you exactly which fix to reach for, and that's exactly what I'm going to walk through next. I didn't learn plumbing in a classroom, and I didn't learn it because I loved pipes. I learned it the same way I learned roofing and framing and every other trade I've picked up over the last 40 years. Because something broke and there wasn't money sitting around to pay somebody else to fix it. Growing up outside Youngstown, if a drain backed up or a pipe smelled bad, you didn't call a plumber. You got under the sink and figured it out, because that was the only option on the table. My dad, Dale, worked the mills until they shut down, and after that he took whatever work he could find. Fixing things at home was never a hobby in our house. It was just what you did, because there wasn't another option, and that includes plumbing right along with everything else. My sister Linda still calls me instead of a plumber, same as she has for years. She sends me 3 photos and asks what she needs to buy, and half the time the answer costs her about nothing and takes 5 minutes. My old friend Pete does the same thing, and so does half the neighborhood I grew up in. I've been the free plumber, the free roofer, and the free everything else for this whole area for about 30 years running, and I never once charged for it. Here's the part that actually matters for this video. In all that time, in my own house, I have never had a drain clog up on me, and I have never had one stink in the summer, not once. That's not luck, and it's not some trick I bought off a late-night infomercial. It's 2 or 3 habits I picked up decades ago and never stopped doing, because they work, and they cost next to nothing. I'm not going to stand here and tell you I've got a license or a fancy truck with my name painted on the side. What I've got is 40 years of doing this with my own hands, in my own house, and in half the houses on my old street. That's the only credential I'm bringing to this video, and it's the only one that actually matters here. So let's get into it. Here's exactly what I do, in order, every single time, and none of it involves a boiling pot or a plumber's bill. All right, time to get into it. These are the steps in order, with the real amounts, so you can go do this today. Step 1 is the fastest fix in this whole video, and it takes about a minute. Walk around your house and find every drain you don't use every day. Your guest bathroom sink and tub, a basement floor drain, a laundry sink, a garage floor drain if you've got one. Pour about 2 cups of plain water down each one, and that refills the trap I told you about earlier. And for most of these rarely used drains, that alone is what stops the sewer gas smell completely. If it's a drain that sits unused for weeks at a time, like a basement floor drain, pour in a tablespoon of mineral oil right on top of the water afterward. Mineral oil floats, so it sits on top of that water and slows down how fast it evaporates, which buys you months instead of weeks before you need to do this again. Step 2 is for your kitchen sink, where grease and food scraps are doing most of the damage. Run your hot tap water as hot as it comes out of your water heater, straight down the drain for about 30 seconds. While it's running, add a good squirt of regular dish soap right into the stream. Dish soap is built to grab onto grease and let water carry it away, and that combination of hot water and soap is doing the real heavy lifting here, way more than people give it credit for. Step 3. Turn off the water and pour about a half cup of baking soda straight down the drain, then follow it with a cup of white vinegar. It's going to fizz up right away, and that's fine. Let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes. I want to be straight with you about what that fizzing is actually doing, because it's not what most people think, and I'll get into that in the next section. For now, just know it helps knock loose whatever's clinging to the inside of that pipe. Step 4. Finish it off with another 30 to 60 seconds of hot tap water, run as strong as your faucet allows, to flush everything that just got loosened straight down the line. In the peak of summer, running this whole kitchen routine once a week keeps things from building back up between visits. If you've got a garbage disposal, take 30 seconds and lift up that rubber splash guard sitting down in the drain opening. Food residue builds up on both sides of it and just sits there rotting, and that's a smell source all on its own that no amount of vinegar downstream ever touches. Wipe it down with a little dish soap on an old rag once a week, right along with the rest of this routine, and you've cut out one more source before it even gets started. Now, here's where I'm changing something from the version of this trick you've probably seen floating around online. A lot of these videos tell you to boil that vinegar on the stove first, and some of them tell you to add salt to the mix and call it a disinfectant. I'm not doing either one, and I'll tell you plainly why. Boiling water sitting in a pot is right around 212 degrees, and PVC pipe, which is what's running under most kitchen sinks built in the last few decades, starts to soften and warp well before it gets anywhere close to that. Pouring boiling liquid down a plastic drain again and again is how you turn a 2-minute fix into a real plumbing bill. Hot tap water gets you almost all the same grease-cutting power without ever coming near that danger zone, so there's no reason to touch a pot of boiling anything. As for the salt, I'll tell you flat, I couldn't find anything that actually backs up the idea that salt kills bacteria sitting inside your pipes. If you want to use salt for something useful, sprinkle a little on your sink stopper or strainer basket and scrub it with an old toothbrush. It works fine as a bit of grit to help you scrub off buildup by hand. Just don't count on it to do any work once it's down inside the pipe where you can't reach it. That's the whole fix. 2 cups of water in your rarely used drains, hot water and dish soap in the kitchen, baking soda and vinegar with a hot water flush behind it, and nothing anywhere near a boil. Let's get into why swapping out the boil and the salt doesn't cost you a thing, because I don't want you thinking I softened this trick just to be safe. Start with that biofilm I mentioned earlier. It's a thin, living layer of bacteria and grime stuck to the inside of your pipe, and it's the main reason a drain keeps smelling even after you've scrubbed everything you can see. Nobody gets rid of biofilm completely and for good. It's going to come back to some degree no matter what you do, the same way that rock sitting in the creek grows a new layer of slime a few weeks after you scrub it clean. What you're actually doing with any of these treatments is managing it, not curing it once and for all. Now, about the heat. Hot water straight from your water heater usually runs somewhere around 120 to 140 degrees. A rolling boil is right around 212. That's a big gap, and it matters because PVC pipe has a real ceiling on what it can handle, somewhere around 140 degrees before it starts to soften and lose its shape at the joints. Hot tap water sits right at the edge of safe. Boiling water blows straight past it, since the whole point of using hot liquid here is to melt grease and loosen buildup, and hot tap water already does that job. There's no upside left to justify the risk of the boil. You're not losing cleaning power, you're just cutting out the part that can crack a joint down the line. Same story with the baking soda and vinegar. When those two mix, you get fizzing, water, and a little gas, and that's about it. It's not some powerful cleaner eating through grease, more like shaking up a bottle to knock loose whatever's stuck on the bottom instead of scrubbing it out by hand. That fizzing action helps physically agitate whatever's clinging to the pipe wall and gives the hot water flush behind it something to grab and carry away. It's a real step, just not the one doing the job people think it's doing. and it was never going to disinfect anything on its own. And the salt, same deal. Salt is a fine thing to keep food from rotting on your counter because it pulls moisture out of whatever it's touching. Inside a pipe full of running water, there's nothing for it to pull moisture out of, and nothing I could find backs up the idea that it's killing bacteria down in there. It's not doing harm, it's just not doing the job the internet says it's doing, so there's no reason to build a whole ritual around it. Put it all together and here's the honest version. Hot water and dish soap handle the grease. Baking soda and vinegar knock loose what's stuck to the walls. A trap full of water blocks the sewer gas. That's the entire mechanism, and every part of it's doing real work, which is more than you can say for the boiling pot and the salt shaker. Kitchen sink's the one everybody thinks about, but it's usually not the only drain causing trouble in the house. Bathroom sinks, tubs, and showers deal with a different kind of buildup. It's less about grease and more about hair and soap scum. And hair is a physical problem more than a chemical one. It wraps around the stopper and catches everything else that goes down after it. So pulling it out by hand, or with a cheap plastic drain tool, does more good than any liquid you could pour down there. Once the hair's out, the same trap and water logic from the kitchen still applies. So if that bathroom doesn't get used every day, like a guest bath, keep it on your list for the water refill habit. One spot people miss completely is the overflow channel. That small hole up near the top rim of a bathroom sink or tub. It ties into the same drain system, and it collects the same soap, scum, and grime as everything else, except nobody ever scrubs it because nobody thinks to. Every couple months, mix a little dish soap into a cup of hot water and pour it slowly into that overflow hole, and you'll clear out a smell source almost nobody knows is there. Floor drains are where I see the most confusion. Basement utility rooms, laundry rooms, garages. A lot of houses have at least one floor drain that maybe gets touched twice a year, and those are far and away the most common source of a smell that shows up out of nowhere and makes you think you've got a sewer problem. 9 times out of 10, it's just that trap sitting dry, exactly like we talked about earlier. Pour water down it, add that tablespoon of mineral oil if it's really out of the way, and you're done. If you've got a sump pit in your basement, I'll be straight with you, that's a different animal. A smell coming from a sump pit is usually stagnant water sitting still, or a pump that isn't cycling the way it should, not something a vinegar flush is built to fix. Check that the pump's actually running when it should, and keep the pit itself reasonably clean. That's a mechanical problem, not a cleaning problem, and no amount of baking soda changes that. Here's the habit I'd actually keep up with, because it covers every drain I just mentioned. Once a month, walk the house and run a little water down anything you don't use every single day, your guest bathroom, basement floor drain, laundry sink, and garage drain, all of it. It takes 5 minutes total for the whole house, and it's the single biggest thing keeping sewer gas out of rooms you don't spend much time in. Do the kitchen routine from the last section once a week through the hottest part of summer, and between those two habits, most houses never get a smell bad enough to need anybody but you. I won't pretend this fixes everything, because it doesn't, and telling you otherwise is exactly the kind of thing that gets people hurt or costs them more money down the line. Biofilm always comes back to some degree. I said it earlier and I'll say it again here because it matters. There's no drain in any house, mine included, that stays perfectly clean forever after one good flush. The habits in this video keep it under control. They don't make it disappear for good, and anybody telling you different is selling you something. If you've refilled every trap in the house and the sewer smell is still there a day or two later, that's not a habit problem anymore. That points to something bigger, usually a blocked vent stack, which is the pipe that runs up through your roof and lets pressure equalize and gas escape outside instead of into your house. If debris or a bird's nest is sitting in that vent, no amount of water or vinegar fixes it, because the problem isn't inside the trap at all. Same goes if you're hearing gurgling when you run water, or if more than one drain in the house is draining slow at the same time. That's usually a sign of a line problem or a vent problem further down the system, not a surface-level smell issue. One slow drain is probably just that drain. 2 or 3 slow drains acting up together, all around the same time, means it's time to get somebody out to actually look at the pipe instead of trying another home remedy. I'm not saying that because I'm scared of the work. I've done plenty of it myself over the years. I'm saying it because knowing the difference between a 2-minute fix and something that needs somebody to actually open up a wall or run a camera down the line is what keeps a small problem small. Guess wrong on that, and a $30 fix turns into a $3,500 one. Worth sitting with for a second. If refilling a trap and running some hot water and dish soap handles most of this, it's worth asking why every plumbing company out there still wants to sell you a service call, a fancy enzyme treatment, or a whole new drain line. I spent years working job sites next to guys who ran their own plumbing and contracting outfits. One of them quoted a neighbor of mine $400 for a job that used about $30 in material and 40 minutes of actual work, and I'm not going to name names, but I stood right there and watched it happen. That's not a guess about the markup. I lived next door to it for years. I want to be fair about this part, though. Those guys weren't crooks. What they were selling wasn't the 2 minutes of work. It was the part where you never have to think about it, never have to get under your own sink, never have to know what a trap even is. That's a real service, and for some people, at some point, it's worth paying for. Most homeowners just never get shown the free version first, so they never get the chance to decide if they even need the paid one. I worked next to guys like my old friend Denny for years. Denny runs his own outfit now, and he's not a bad guy. He just prices in a nice truck and a company logo on the door somewhere. My son Wyatt's out there with me most weekends now, learning this the same way I did. Hands-on, one job at a time, and if I can teach my own kid this for free, I can hand it to you the same way. The habit I'd really want you to walk away with isn't just this one fix. It's figuring out what's actually broken before you reach for your wallet, because half the time, once you know that, the real fix costs a lot less than the sales pitch made it sound. A company that sells drain treatments and service calls for a living isn't going to lead with pour 2 cups of water down your unused drains once a month. There's no product in that, no service call, no markup. It's not a conspiracy. Nobody's got a reason to hand you the free fix when the paid one is what keeps their doors open. And seeing that plainly makes the whole industry a lot easier to read, so it stops feeling like anybody's hiding anything from you. That's really the whole reason I do these videos. I've spent 30 years being the guy my sister and my old buddy Pete call instead of a professional, and I've watched people I care about get charged plenty for jobs that weren't nearly as complicated as they were made to sound. If I can hand you the same 2-minute version I've been using in my own house for 3 decades, that's the whole point of this channel. So here's the whole thing. One more time, plain and quick. Pour water down every drain you don't use every day, and add mineral oil if it sits for weeks at a stretch. In the kitchen, hot tap water and dish soap first, then baking soda and vinegar, then another hot flush behind it. Skip the boiling pot, skip the salt as a disinfectant, and you haven't lost a thing. Your drain smell was never a mystery, and it was never something that needed a special product with your name on the label. It's a dry trap or a warm layer of grime, sometimes both at once, and now you know exactly which one you're dealing with. Tell me down in the comments which drain in your house needs this first. Kitchen, basement, or that guest bathroom nobody's used since Easter. Next time, I'll show you how to snake a drain by hand with a $5 tool, no rented equipment, and no service call required.